Sounding of the shofar. Now, what's the sounding of the shofar? Let's just get it clear over here. The Jewish people, they were called the chosen people. Chosen people means that God chose us to get this job done. What's the job? Maybe close the door, please. What's the job? The job is to perfect the world. To perfect the world. What does it mean, perfect the world? To bring out the potential good in everything. Everything has something potentially good in it. It's called the spark. And it's our job, the Jewish people, to bring out this good. What could be the good in a blade of grass, in a fire hydrant, in a cloud? What's the... Okay, so what is the good? What are the good things? What is the good of these things that the Jewish people are supposed to bring out? So, a lot of it, I mean, you know how many blades of grass there are around the world? A lot. But if you use these things to serve God in any way, use it to serve God. Even just to look at all the grass and say, wow, look how many blades of grass there are. Only God could have created all this. But this is above understanding. This is beyond understanding. Why would God create so many blades of grass? It must be, we have to say that he's just totally something incomprehensible. Look, amazing. Look how much life there is, how many blades of grass. And you look at each blade of grass and how amazingly complicated it is, that it has roots and photogenesis, how it gets from the sun, etc. There's people who go into this in great detail, but everything you can learn from one blade of grass, a miracle that justifies. You can learn from one blade of grass how miraculous the creation is. That gives importance to all the blades of grass in the world. Just a simple example. Well, God created all these blades of grass and all these clouds and stars and planets and things like that. And us, he created it all when?
Us or the grass?
The whole business. Created it how long ago? 5,780. Another couple of weeks is going to be 80 years ago. The whole thing. Created it. And he's still creating it now, brand new. And we commemorate this by sounding the shofar. But it's even more than commemorating it. We become partners with God. Is that possible, partners with God? So the Rebbe says this is the special time when we can start to feel that God is really creating us. That we are creations and we are being created by Hashem. Here's a sefer. Here, I'll give you this. Here you go. Let me just fix this over here. Let's continue. We're now on page Tuf Ayin Ches. That's where we got up to. One more page. Okay, Levi. Tuf Ayin Ches. Umamshich Sham, and it continues on in this mamar. This is a mamar that was written by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe is commenting on it. The Zehu Gam Bir Nusach Bracha Shofros. That this is the meaning of the words and the blessing that the one who sounds the shofar, he makes before he sounds the shofar. Shomea kol teruas amo Yisrael barachim. I'm sorry, not the one who sounds the shofar. In our prayers on the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, prayers of Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, right? So we have the first three blessings, the last three blessings, like every Shemona Esrei, with changes a little bit, but it's basically the same. Then we have, usually in all the holidays and on Shabbat, you have one blessing in the middle. and Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, you have 3 blessings in the middle. What are those 3 blessings? Malchus, Zichronos, Shofros. The first blessing is making God a king. The second one is making God remember us. And the third one is making God listen to the shofar. What does it mean, making God? We bring 10 sentences from the Torah and the prophets and the writings, proving that God must be a king. Then 10 sentences proving that God must remember us. And then 10 sentences proving that God listens to the shofar. And we say, God, you wrote these sentences in the Torah, you have to abide by them. You have to be a king. You have to remember us. You have to sound the shofar. You have to listen to our shofar. You have to respond. God responds. And this is a very, very basic message of Judaism to the world. That God himself, the creator of the universe, he responds. He helps us. We're not alone. And not only that, we can influence him. If we do good, he responds to what we say. He responds to our actions. He responds to our thoughts. God responds. That's the idea of shofrot, that God listens to the shofar. And this is the blessing that we make in the Musaf, not the one who sounds the shofar, I'm sorry. The one who sounds the shofar says, Baruch atah Hashem, asher kishanu v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. That's the blessing that you make on the one who sounds the shofar. Here we're making the blessing that in the Musaf prayer. Shomea kol turos amo Yisrael barachamim. You hear the sound of the shofar blast of the Jewish people with mercy. Teruah. Shomea called teruah. What is a teruah? Teruah has a lot of meanings to it. The word teruah. Which sound is a teruah in the 3 sounds? Tkiya and shvorim teruah. What's the teruah? Levi, you know?
It's a long one.
Close, but totally wrong.
No, sorry, it's the Tkiya shvarim teruah. It's the 3rd one.
What's the 3rd one?
It's the fast one.
That's the teruah.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Shomea too. I hope that it reminds you of better things than that, but Teruah hu inyan shvirat hachumriut v'hayeshut. Teruah, it says Teruah b'shevet barzel. There's a pasuk that says to break something. Teruah means to break something up. Teruah. Interesting, the word Teruah also comes from the word reut. Shalom v'reut, friends. Friends, God loves us. Reut, Teruah. But here the word Teruah also means to be broken up. It's a broken up voice. Al Yedei by means of this, Poalim, it causes Shamalchut, that God's kingship is the God's aspect of God, that he creates the world and that he directs the world. Now this is all faith. We don't see God. You don't hear God. We believe that God is creating the world, and we believe that God is, it's a little bit logical if you think about it. It's a little bit logical. It's also a little bit unlogical, but nevertheless it is. Malchutei b'bechinat gilui or. This is making that God's kingship should be revealed. Once in a while we see God's kingship. Right? You see a beautiful sunset, you think, wow, only this is a godly thing, spiritual, amazing. You have a little hint that there's more to this world than meets the eye. Loche, and therefore, Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah, the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, Shechol Yot B'Shabbat, when it falls on Shabbat, which that happens sometimes. Let's skip this. The parentheses. Ein tokin, you do not sound the shofar. If Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, we do not sound the shofar. Why? Lefi, because Shabbat, on Shabbat, Ein ha'avodah be'ofen deshvira bebirur. Because the service of sounding the shofar, part of it is breaking your heart. Shvorim is breaking your heart. Teruah is breaking it even more. What does it mean, breaking your heart? A person realizes, oh yeah, up to now I thought I was the king of the universe. Up to now I was doing whatever I wanted. I didn't notice that I was in the king's palace, and the king was watching me all this time patiently to see when I would catch on and realize that I'm making a big mistake. Suddenly, all of a sudden, on Rosh Hashanah, you realize, hey, I'm in the palace, the king has been watching me all the time. Ooh, Your Majesty, you've been watching me for 1 full year, right? Wondering when you're that your heart is broken.
Still, the listening of the shofar is so inherent, so central to the service of Rosh Hashanah.
Yes. And that's part of it, is to have a broken heart. To have a broken heart doesn't mean a negative. You can have a broken heart from a positive thing. Suddenly you realize, let's take an example, the same thing. The man is in the palace and he sees the king sitting up there and the king is watching him, right? He sees the king watching him and he goes, oh, you've been watching me for 1 full year. What do I care? You got nothing better to do, Your Majesty, than to watch me? That's all you got to do? Right? Who cares? Suddenly he realizes, right?
What he said.
Right? Suddenly he realizes, oi, if you think that you're better than the king, so that Rosh Hashanah doesn't change anything. But if you realize that, no, the king is really totally different than I am, he's there for my benefit. If I continue thinking I'm the king, then the whole country is going to go under the ground. Ub'Shabbat borer isur. On Shabbat, the whole thing of sounding the shofar is to make things clear. You clarify who the king really is. That really God is really a king, and really you aren't the king. You can't control the world, and you think you can. You want to make up your own, anarchy, and you think that anarchy is the answer to all problems. Okay, but it's not. That's wrong. Your fact is wrong. Sometimes a person can catch it. It really is wrong to kill people. It really is wrong to steal. Right? It really is wrong. Some people think there's nothing wrong with it. Right? It really is wrong to be licentious, take somebody else's wife, who knows what. It really is wrong. Right? They're trying now, and the whole world is trying to say there's no such thing as right and wrong. It's not new. Not a new thing. It's only what feels good, what doesn't hurt anybody else. So it's a weird read. Right? Make up your own thing. Suddenly on Rosh Hashanah you realize, hey, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. That breaks your heart. But it breaks you out in a good way. Right? What have I done? I did a bad thing. I realize I've done a bad thing, and now I can be a normal human being. The tam adavar hu mishum shebeshabbat hu shlemut emitit inyan agashmut. On Shabbat we do not sound the shofar. Why? Because Shabbat is already a certain degree of completion, wholesomeness, and you don't have to break your heart so much on Shabbat. Shabbat, everything becomes elevated, even your heart. It says there's a in the Talmud it says that even an ignoramus won't lie on Shabbos. It's hard for him to lie on Shabbos. A Jewish ignoramus, he won't lie. It's harder. It says Am Oretz Einu Mishaker b'Shabbos. Ubezeh ein tzorich liyos avodas habirurim. So on Shabbos, you don't have to do so much refining of the world, because it's already refined. You don't have to refine your heart so much. That's the purpose of Rosh Hashanah. Umamshich mikol makom b'migdash hayu tokim gam b'Shabbos. But in the Migdash, Beit HaMikdash, they did sound the shofar on Shabbat. Why? Lefi, because shebamigdash harei hayesh hu tikuno. Because in the Holy Temple, on Shabbat, when Rosh Hashanah fell on Shabbat, they would sound the shofar. Why? Because in Rosh Hashanah, it's a different type. The shofar has a different purpose in the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple, the world is something like it'll be in the future, in the days of the Mashiach. Shehu b'makom hayoter muvchar. The world becomes purified. The animals, for instance, were brought there, and you would utilize the animals for their ultimate purpose, to make them closer to the Creator. Okay, Levi, you with me? Hainu. She'agashmi hu kadaboy. The physical world is the way it was supposed to be. The Beit HaMikdash was a prototype of what's going to be in the days of the Mashiach. A perfect world. That was the Holy Temple. God was revealed. You go to the Beit HaMikdash, you'd feel there's a creator. You'd feel you're being created. You'd feel it. You'd feel, wow, I'm lucky, I'm being created. Right? I'm not alone. I'm being created by the Creator. I'm really important in the Creator's eyes. If there's no Creator, so I'm important, I really care about, right? Some days you think you're the king of the universe, and other days you realize you're all alone, even though nobody likes me, nobody cares about me. Right? I'm all feel embarrassed, feel this, feel depressed, feel low, because he feels he's all alone. When he gets mad, he can just do whatever he wants because he feels he's all alone. There's no checks. You go to the Beis HaMikdash, all of a sudden you feel happy. You're happy, you feel happy, I'm alive. It's a big gift I'm getting. Ulazot, therefore, but Mikdash in the Holy Temple, Hayu Tokim, they would sound the shofar on Shabbat, because it was a different purpose of sounding the shofar in the Holy Temple. Outside of the temple is to purify you, to take away the bad. That's what we said, to take away the bad so you can reveal the good. In the Holy Temple, there wasn't any bad. She'en ze'inyan birur, it's not taking away the bad. Ela pu'ula shlema nalit yoter be'agashmi shalem. This is like it's going to be in the future. You know, in the future when the Mashiach purifies the world, there's still going to be Torah v'mitzvahs. Why will you have to do Torah v'mitzvahs? You won't have to purify the world because it'll be elevating things more and more, higher and higher. V'ula yesh lahosif b'zeh. Maybe we can add on, alpi, in other words, in the days of the Mashiach, the work that we'll do serving God is not turning from bad. It'll be doing good, more good. There's an infinite amount of good. That was the sounding of the shofar on the Rosh in the Holy Temple. In the Holy Temple on Shabbat, they would sound the shofar because the sounding of the shofar in Rosh Hashanah is like the commandments in the future when Mashiach will take away all the bad from the world and there'll only be meaningful, godly, happy world. And the shofar will have the purpose of elevating everything even more. You do it like it's what's known. Shebakodesh Kadashim, that in the Holy of Holies, Makom Aaron, the place where there was the ark. The ark was 2.5 amas wide and 1.5 amas high and 1.5 amas deep. Well, when they went down to clean it, they would lower people down to clean it. They would measure it. It had no measure. It didn't take up any room in the room. You ever hear this before? Didn't take up any room. I mean, was it there or wasn't there? Of course it was there. It was a mitzvah. It had to be there. And it had to be certain measurements. If it wasn't those measurements, it was disqualified. It wasn't any good. It had to be in the Holy of Holies. And it had to be 2.5 amas wide, etc. It had to have these measurements. But nevertheless, when they lowered somebody down and he measured from the end of the wall to the other end, it ended up that there was no Aaron there. It was like there was nothing there.
Back to this blowing of the shofar on Shabbos. We don't blow it on Shabbos. Is this rabbinical or Torah halacha?
We'll learn in the next mimer after this. My grandson learns here. Please. What did you ask?
I was got this blowing of the shofar that we don't do it on Shabbos. First of all,
so it's a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah, the Rosh Hashanah Mishnah,
not to blow.
and that the reason that they don't sound the shofar is because there is a gezerah of Rabbah. That when it falls on Shabbos, we don't sound the shofar because everybody has to hear the shofar and not everybody knows all the laws. And therefore someone might be tempted to take the shofar and carry it in a public domain.
And that's why we don't blow it on Shabbos.
So in the Maimorim of Chabad, it asks, how could that possibly be? I mean, the sounding of the shofar is so tremendously important and so essential to Judaism. And we have explained in these Maimorim so beautifully about the deep effect that the shofar has on God and on the world. And the Tanya and us and everything. How can it be that just because maybe you're going to carry it, in a public domain, it's just a wild worry?
That's one person.
Right. Maybe one person. What about everybody? Right. No one else can. So the answer that's given is the answer that the Rebbe gives over here. That Shabbat itself has almost the same effect as Rosh Hashanah.
Well, if you're going to talk about not putting on,
Especially when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat.
Put on
Right.
tefillin on Shabbos. Okay, but this is
That says, that's what he says. When Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, that combination, Shabbat has almost the same effect as the shofar does. When that combination is Shabbat and Rosh Hashanah together, and therefore it's not necessary. And once again, so because it's not necessary, so therefore you're not protected so much from heaven. And it could be that you'll carry it in the public domain, which is not the case in the Holy Temple. In the Holy Temple, the shofar does have an effect. Even if it's on Shabbos, the shofar does add on. Okay, Herschel.
Personally, when I hear the shofar Rosh Hashanah, my imagination, I imagine hearing the shofar at Mount Torah even. It's so moving. I like Shabbos, I feel Shabbos, but I don't feel Shabbos like that.
Okay, but we can't measure it according to your emotional feelings, but very good. You're sensitive, and it's wonderful. But nevertheless, the rabbis,
The importance of it is
so important, yes. But that's what it says in Chassidut, spiritually, that's what happens. That's why Rabbah was allowed to make this decree. The Rebbe is a sikh about it. Because on Shabbat is not so necessary, and because it's not so necessary, so therefore you're not protected so much from heaven, from doing the sin of carrying it in the public domain.
Didn't we also learn that there's an order to mitzvot that I wasn't exactly correct, but there were some mitzvot that if the two mitzvot are conflicting with each other, one has more authority over another.
Positive commandment, negative commandment. Okay, yes. Maybe make yourself another coffee. Good to see you sleeping.
Yeah, I'm rounding up to finish practice.
Okay, you'll finish this if you want. After davening, you can go back and go to sleep. What did you say?
The priority that positive takes precedence over a negative. This sounds like a positive, blowing the shofar. The negative is don't carry. I really, this thing with not blowing the.
No. You can't prepare. If for instance, if a person, there's simple law. If a person has not got a shofar, he can't go somewhere and carry it. He can't even transgress a law of the rabbis in order to make a shofar or to prepare one or to get it. Let's say your shofar is up on a tree. You're not allowed to climb the tree to bring the shofar.
Let me see if I understand. So the ruling is that we don't blow it because the shofar might get broken or cracked.
No.
We want to repair it. The one that's blown in the shul.
Because you might carry it for Amos to show a rabbi and have him teach you.
That's an example of a negative commandment, right? A prohibition?
It's the rabbis made this decree. You can't ask why did they do it. Right. No, that's what I'm trying to say. The rabbis know the principles of this. Here the rabbis are saying, you cannot, it's a worry. Maybe you will carry it 4 amos. Maybe you will transgress a Torah commandment. Maybe. So the question is asked, how can you on a maybe of one person negate a positive commandment for all the Jewish people?
Yeah.
So the answer is the answer that I gave you. That's the Rebbe's answer. Except for that, there is no answer. Rabbah just said that it's a worry that maybe you'll do it, and this was accepted.
Are there other opinions on this?
No. If it falls on Shabbat, you cannot sound the shofar. Why? So here, what they're saying in Chassidus is not you cannot. You don't have to sound the shofar. It's not necessary to sound the shofar. Shabbat itself, when it's combined with Rosh Hashanah, that accomplishes the same thing spiritually as sounding the shofar. Same purity is achieved. Okay? Ready? Maybe don't get too comfortable. Don't get too comfortable. Yeah. Maybe make another coffee. Good. So Hosif Bazeh Alpia Yadua the B'Mikdash the Kodesh Kadoshim. That's what we said, right? Let's do this again. The Kodesh Kadoshim, the Holy of Holies, Makom Aaron, the place of the ark, was not measured. It wasn't there. Hainu Shahaya Bazeh Inyan Del Medidav Hagbala. The ark that contained the tablets had a certain measurement. Moded Yud Amos Lakal Ruch. It had to have 10, measured 10 amos to every direction, and it didn't take up any place. The whole room was 20 amas. The whole room was 20 amas, and when you measured the room with the ark in it, from one end of the ark to the wall, from the other end of the ark to the wall, it ended up that the ark didn't take up any place. But al derech zeh Aaron atzmo, the ark itself, kuloi, bohu mid midat hagvura. It was exact. Amatayim v'chetzi arko. It had to be 1.5 amos long, 1.5 amos high, 1.5 amos wide. So the room was measured, the ark was measured. There had to be certain measure, but nevertheless, when you put them together, somehow or other, the ark just didn't take up any place. Mishum shehi hayesh tikono. What's the Rebbe trying to prove? That in the Holy Temple, the physical world was the way it's supposed to be. What's the physical world supposed to be? It's supposed to be here and not here at the same time. That the measurement itself is unmeasurable. What does this mean? We look at the world, we seem to see that the world is really real. But the fact of the matter is the world is made of nothing. And God is miraculously bringing it in to be something. So is the world really here or is it not here? So the answer, of course it's here. What is here? You can't steal somebody else's bicycle and say it's not really here. Of course it's here. And it's my hand that's doing the stealing. So I'm here. So if so, the world is really here, right? No, it's wrong. It's not here. It's made of nothing. The world is made of nothing. Take 1,000,000 nothings. Take nothing, multiply it by a billion. You have a nothing. The world is nothing. It's made from nothing. It's not made from spirit. It's not made from energy. It's not made from light or from sound or from whatever. The world is made from nothing. Spiritual world, all of the energy, the power, everything is made from nothing. And it's made constantly. Time also is created from nothing, every second. So if so, then the world doesn't really exist, right? It doesn't really exist. So how do I see a world? Why is it forbidden to steal something? Why do I have a hand? What do you mean? What are we talking about? God is creating you. What's the question? So, does it exist or doesn't exist? So the answer is yes, both. It exists and it doesn't exist at the same time. Everything we see is a tremendous miracle. It's here only because God is making it here every single instant. So God is not a religious concept anymore, right? This cellular phone is not religious. My hat is not religious. It's being created all the time by God. And, okay, so it's being created by God. The thieves are also being created by God. So they can say, well, I'm being created by God as a thief. I'll just be a good thief. So no, God's creating you for a purpose. And what's the purpose? The purpose is to do what God wants. The person says, but I don't want to. He says, yeah, well, that's why you should remember that really, essentially, you're nothing. And your desire to be a thief and this is really coming from nothing. So be like the ark, be something, right? Be who you are, but at the same time, you have to say, but I'm going to use this something that I have to serve the creator of the universe, because really I'm nothing. Does it make sense? A little bit. A little bit. Now, the problem is, and it's a good problem, that's what God wanted. God makes this miracle constantly. So because it's constant, so we get used to it. It's called nature. Teva. The previous Rebbe has a lot of beautiful memorim about this. And the first person to really catch this thing is Abraham. First human being not to think about himself, to only think about the Creator. I am being created every moment brand new by the Creator from nothing. So also my free will is being created. Why shouldn't I use it to do what's right? So you want to know why? Because it doesn't feel good. That's why. A lot of times you have a big desire to do something, right? You get angry at someone, you get all depressed, you get this. So go for it. That's your feelings. Like as they say in America now, feelings are everything. Feelings are more important than facts. No such thing as facts. It's just feeling, right? Just me and you. The Yesh Lomar.
Something or nothing.
Yesh Lomar, we can say. So if so, the world exists and it doesn't exist at the same time. What does it mean? It means that it exists and it exists in order to serve the Creator. Where do we see this? In the Holy Temple. In the Holy Temple, the temple was there, and at the same time, it wasn't really there. You measured it, it wasn't there. What do you get out of this? Happiness. You become happy. You realize that God is creating me. I'm pretty important in God's eyes. What do I care about what people say? What do I care about what people do? God, but what? I do care about what God says. That's what the Torah is. That's why it's so bad, all these religions that try to devaluate the Torah and devaluate the Jews. These movements, whatever. Yesh Lomar, okay, Levi. With me?
Does it say Levi?
Yesh Lomar, we can say, Shebepenim Yoseinyan. It's like the man who went to the rabbi after the Shabbos sermon. You hear me, Levi? Mm-hmm. And he said, "Great sermon, Rabbi. I couldn't sleep the whole night." The rabbi said, "Really? It was so really good?" He said, "Yeah, when I sleep in the daytime, I can't sleep at night." The sermon was so boring that he went to sleep, and therefore he couldn't go to. So it's good to see a person. Okay. The Yesh Lomar, we can say, take that off of the.
So, most of them are good.
Most of them, yeah. Yesh Lomar, some people say, Shebepenimius ha'inyan hine, oto hamshacha shenimshacha al yedei tekiyat b'mikdash, on Shabbos, nimshacha gam b'kol makom b'kol zaman. That same revelation that is by sounding the shofar in the Holy Temple on Shabbat, we also evoke that every Rosh Hashanah. Okay, Herschel. Al derech dagam kishe'en tokim kishechol yom tov b'Rosh Hashanah liot b'Shabbat. For instance, the fact that we do not sound the shofar on Rosh Hashanah that falls on Shabbat, mikol makom nimshach, there is drawn down amirat psuki malchiot, when we say the sentences in Musaf prayer of making God a king. God should remember, God should listen to the shofar. Remember that I talked about in the beginning of the class. When we say those sentences, ha'inyan shaya nimshach b'beit hamikdash, then we evoke the same revelation that was in the Holy Temple when the shofar was sounded, which we said that's the highest of the highs. Everything is perfect. The Holy Temple was a perfect world. And sounding the shofar in the Holy Temple, it's like Adam sounding the shofar the first time. Perfect world, elevating the whole creation. Hainu she'amirat ha'pesukim, when we say the sentences, b'kol makom b'kol zaman, mamshicha oto amshacha dabinyan malchut. This draws down the same revelation of building God's kingship. God's kingship, as we said, just to remind you, means God's power to create the world and God's power to direct the world. It's called external malchut and the inside of malchut, the inside of God's kingship. The power to create the world and the reason why He's creating the world. This the Jewish people arouse every Rosh Hashanah. Well, when we say the sentences of malchiot and shofrot, zichronot, in the Musaf prayer, it does the same thing. It adds on to the shofar that we sound. The kumuvan gam mizeh shapsukim she'omin, the sentence that we say in every place. Hem mispar eser, they are number 10. 10 sentences proving God as a king. 10 sentences proving that God must listen to us. 10 sentences proving that God listens to the shofar. That God must remember us to listen to the shofar. They are all 10 sentences corresponding to Yud Spheros, which correspond to what's called the 10 spheres of God's personality. The 10 Sphirot. Sheme'em naseh binyan malchut, that this is how we make the building of malchut. We called it before a partzuf. A complete picture, whatever it is, of God's total potential. Okay, it says in the Zohar that the secret of the 10 Sphirot is really the secret of faith. Why? Because you can believe that God exists, and it doesn't really affect you in a personal way, and it certainly doesn't make you happy. You believe that God exists, but if you believe that God helps you, if you believe that God cares, if you believe that God is kind, that God can be severe, that God has a personality, that God interacts with us, that's the secret. That's true faith in God. That's true faith. God becomes, how do you say, personal. You can have a personal connection with God, which is necessary in Judaism. It's a commandment to love God. You can't love something, love some sort of a spirit or something. So God has a personality. That's the idolatry. That's all the Catholics, the Protestants, all these people. God is too far away. They want a God with a personality, so they made up a person. A person, you have to believe in a person. But that's idolatry. You can't do that. You can't do that. Why do they do it? Why do they do it? I mean, what's wrong with them? Let them believe whatever they want to. Let them believe. This is because they don't really appreciate what God really is, that God has a personality. They don't appreciate God's interaction and involvement with the world and reaction to the world.
It's not part of their history.
So therefore they want something more personal, something more intimate. Right? Something more intimate. But the fact is that God is the Savior, and God helps us, and God listens to our prayers, and God, He's a Melech, Ozer, Moshiach, Mogain. God is He helps us, He's the Savior. Personal connection with God. Huh? Hainu sha'al yedei amira poalim binyan shalim. By means of saying these sentences in the Musaf prayer, this has an effect on God that He decides to be a king in all of the aspects of His personality. To be a kind king, to be a powerful king, to be a wise king, to be an understanding king. To be a king that cares, a king that connects to us. Ta'al derech zeh yesh lo omar yeter mizeh. We can say even more. What's going on over here on Rosh Hashanah? We sound the shofar, it arouses God's essence. We say the sentences of the prayers of Musaf. It arouses God's personality. And we can say even more. Shebakol makom, ubakol zaman, that at every place and every time, nimshechet gam hamshacha anal, that not only in the holy temple and not only in the shul, that every place in the world can be drawn down this revelation by means of the sounding of the shofar in the temple. Okay, Herschel, what did the Rebbe explain? The highest possible commandment you can do up to now, the highest possible commandment you can do is sounding the shofar in the holy temple, the first holy temple. He doesn't say it here, but the first holy temple. The first holy temple, there was also the Yovel. Here he doesn't talk about it. There's another mimer where he talks about in the holy temple on the 50th year called the Yovel, they would sound the shofar on Yom Kippur in the holy temple. That's the highest shofar of all. That's the highest shofar of all. That he explains in another mimer. But nevertheless here, as far as this mimer goes, the sounding of the shofar in the holy temple on Shabbat is the highest possible commandment you can do, and it evokes the highest aspects of godliness. It arouses the highest aspects of godliness. Says the Rebbe, the fact is that now, when we sound the shofar, And when we say the sentences of Zechronos, Malchus, Zechronos, and Shofaros, it reveals God now in the same way as it did back then in the temple when they sounded the shofar. Yesh lo morabir b'zeh. Let's explain how. Tehine yedu, it is known, the saying of the rabbis, al pi on the pasuk, shachanti betocham. God says, make me a holy temple and I will dwell within them. Betocho lo ne'amar. It doesn't say I will dwell in it, even though that was certainly true. Ela betocham, but inside of them, inside of every single Jew. Every single Jew is a holy temple. Shebakol echad ve'echad Yisrael. Every single Jew, yesh bechinet mikdash hanal. Every single Jew is a holy temple. Every human being is very precious to God, is beloved by God, is made in God's image. But the Jewish people are holy, a holy nation. Am Kadosh. Did you know that, Levi? You are a holy person.
My mother says that.
That's why every Jew is a son of God, you think. Their mother says. Shebo hayu tokim gam b'Shabbos. That in the holy temple they would sound the shofar on Shabbat. Therefore, every single Jew is a holy temple, and every single Jew, when he sounds the shofar, when he hears the shofar, when he prays the prayers of Rosh Yom Kippur, even if he just comes to the shul, he is a walking holy temple, and the Shekhinah is there just like it was in the holy temple in the first temple. V'yoter, and even more. The pasuk zeh, this sentence, v'shochanti betocham, what it says that says in the Torah that make me a temple and I will dwell within them. Truma, Parshas Truma, in the book of Exodus. The pasuk there says, make me a temple and I will dwell within them. Ne'amar, it says on the Mishkan. This was simple meaning. It was talking about God was telling me, make a temple. This holy temple God was telling Moses to make the tabernacle in the desert before they came into the land of Israel. Right, 38 years before they came to the land of Israel. Mishkan Zu, this tabernacle is eternal. Why? Because Moshe made it. Everything that Moshe made was eternal. That's what it says in the Talmud, in Sota, of every Jew. Ubefrat, and especially Sheyesh B'kol Echad V'echad, there is in every single Jew also the ark, which is what is the ark inside of every Jew? Darren, the inside of your heart. Did you know if you have an inside of your heart? You know that? What's the inside of your heart? Blood. What's inside of your heart? We're talking about your spiritual heart. The inside of your heart. Because sometimes a person can be doing something, he's making money or something like that, right? The house is burning down. Right? Your house, somebody's trying to steal your car. All of a sudden he forgets about everything, runs outside. Right? It was the inside, it's somebody else's car. Right? All of a sudden the inside of his heart is not so aroused anymore. Inside. There's things that aroused in the inside of your heart that you're not even aware of, what people think about you. Right? This has a tremendous effect on the inside of your heart. That's why the Baal Shem Tov's father said, don't be afraid of anything except for God. Right? If you can do that, that's really a tremendously superhuman accomplishment. As Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to his pupils, that before a person does a sin, he was talking to very holy people, he says, I hope nobody's watching me. That affects on the inside of your heart. Never heard that before? Yeah.
Snap that in there.
Kamo kol ha'maaseh, like everything that Moses does. Right. Every Jew has what's in the inside, the real inside of the heart of everybody? Moshe. The inside of the heart of every Jew is Moses. What's Moses' thing? He was totally devoted to the creator of the universe. What happens when you're totally devoted to the creator of the universe? What happens? You become activated. You become dynamic. You want to do more good. You want to do more for others. You want to do more for the Creator. You're not thinking about yourself. You're alive, you're happy. What happens when you're thinking about yourself? You want to do more for yourself. You're miserable if you don't get enough. You're jealous of other people and you're afraid what people are going to say. You may lose it. And all these terrible things happen. When a person becomes an egotist. And nevertheless, there's people who teach you, there's courses on how to become an egotist. How to become an egotist. There's courses, seminars, coaching. שחודר בתוך, ובפרט שיש כל אחד, משה, גם בחינת הארון, every Jew also has the ark, the holy ark, which is the inside of your heart. Okay, lady, let me look inside. We have 5 more minutes to the class. Kamavur, like it's explained in Likkutei Torah, in the book Likkutei Torah, Bedrushi, and in the Maimorim of the second Rebbe, Nimsa, so it comes out. Sheyesh b'kocho shel kol echad ve'echad b'Yisrael. There is in the ability of every single Jew, even those Jews who are against Judaism. Every single Jew can bring about b'Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah, shechol liot b'Shabbat, that comes on Shabbat, Allah Gashmi, to elevate the physical world above Lamat bitachlit hashlemot shebo b'Beit HaMikdash kamo shehoya al yedei tchiyat shofar Beit HaMikdash. Every Jew nowadays has the ability. Here the Rebbe says when Rosh Hashanah falls on Shabbat, but really it refers to all the time. Every Jew now has the ability to awaken in himself the holy ark that's inside of Moshe Rabbeinu, inside of him. The essence of godliness which is inside of every Jew, you can arouse it by sounding the shofar and saying the sentences of the Musaf prayer. Oh, you have to know what you're saying. Now this is all based on the idea that God really reacts to what we do. You have to believe this. I mean, you don't have to. You can choose to do whatever you want. But that's what this mimer is based on. Hainu, binyan shalim the sfirot malchut. I'm sorry. Ubefrat, and especially according to what is brought in Maimorim and from the Zohar, that on Shabbat there is made it pashtuta dahay nekuda. There is spread out this point, namely a complete build. The point is Malchut, God's kingship, and on Rosh Hashanah we make it bigger. Binyan shalim the sfirot malchut shetiyeh bebechinet Gilui Ohr, so that there will be revelation. We will see and feel there is a creator in the creation. We will see and we will feel that there is a king of the universe, like they did in the Holy Temple. And what does that do? It activates us, makes us happy, makes us responsible, and we feel, thank God we're Jews, and thank God that we can give blessing to the whole entire world. That's the message of Rosh Hashanah, as we will continue, God willing, tomorrow.